In today's video, I'll show you an awesome Solar 3.0 build that you can use in Destiny 2. This build dominates endgame content. You'll always have good ad clear and you'll always be able to stay alive, especially in things like Grandmaster Nightfalls. This tends to be more of an aggressive build. However, you are going to have increased recovery and you're going to always have Radiant and you're going to have a lot of damage outputs, and that's going to be an overall pretty good build. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, hit the like button and sub. Also guys, don't forget to enter the lightfall giveaway by liking and subbing to the channel and commenting your favorite exotic and the platform you play on. With that being said, let's get into the fun stuff. Starting with our super, Hammer of Soul. I would say Burning Maul, but Hammer of Soul is overall better for popping your super versus Burning Maul. Hammer gives you a lot more recovery. And then for Barricade, I would suggest Rally Barricade because it actually buffs your grenade and your overall abilities and your gun a lot more than what you normally would think, and it's a little bit faster than Towering. If you want to run Towering, that's completely fine. Strafe Lift for me, and then I run Throwing Hammer over Hammer Strike. Throwing Hammer, you're going to have a lot more, and it also procs with our exotic, which we'll talk about later on in the video. For a grenade, I run Fusion Grenade. You can also run Axion or Thermite. I would suggest Fusion Grenade though. It's always the fastest charge time and it's overall just the best grenade in the game. For my aspects, I run Soul Vicious. Solar ability Final Blows. Hammer of Soul impacts and defeating scorched targets creates sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Sunspots apply a scorch and deal damage to targets inside entering a sunspot applies restoration. So when we pair our sunspot with something like the exotic that we're going to be using, which I'll cover obviously when I show the mods, but yeah. On to our next aspect, Roaring Flames. Final Blows with solar abilities or ignitions increases the damage of your solar abilities. This stacks 3 times. So this is going to stack with a Throwing Hammer. So we're kind of using like the classical Bonk Hammer, but it kind of synergizes really well with solar, and I'll explain why in a minute. Onto our fragments. Ember of Char. Your solar ignition spreads scorch to affected targets, and it gives you 10 plus discipline, which ideally you want 10 resilience, 10 discipline, and then 10 strength. I don't have the greatest synthesep roll, so unfortunately I can't get those stats, so excuse me on that. And then Ember of Ashes. You apply more scorch stacks to targets. Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. And then Ember of Torches. This takes away 10 of your discipline, but it's really good. Powered melees attack against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant, which gives our shotgun a damage buff, and then when we synergize this with Tractor Cannon, we get a really nice damage output. To our mods, for one, I run Resilience, Double Special Ammo Finder, and Radiant Light. Now, Radiant Light, casting your super causes nearby allies to also increase their current armor charge by 1 allies. You have different subclass elements. From you, increased armor charge by 2. So this is going to help your teammates out in the long run. For my Synthosteps, this is the exotic of this build. I run Double Grenade Kickstart. Now what Synthosteps does is when you're surrounded, you get increased melee and super damage, and improved handling and reload speed. This was a new change with this exotic this season. On my chest, Emergency Reinforcement, and then Charge Stub. On my boots, Invigoration, and Better Already. And then on my mark, I run Reaper, Outreach, and Outreach. This synergizes really well. Now, weapon-wise, this completely preference. I kind of just have this on because I didn't have anything else in my inventory at the time. But for this build, try ideally and run a 1-2 punch shotgun. I actually need to fully get these things crafted so I can have a 1-2 punch shotgun. But yeah, you want 1-2 punch because it's going to give you a big damage increase in your output. And then Tractor Cannon, it's not mandatory, but it is really good if you're doing solo DPSs and stuff like that. For your primary, you could run like double primary or double special. I would not suggest running double special with this build though. You should always have a solar primary on you, synergize with the build. And I'll show you guys an example of how this build works, just so you guys know the rotations. Let's get into it. So I'm going to give you guys an ideal example on just how this build performs in endgame content. So if we look over here, obviously the ads are going to be right here. You can kind of just throw an egg and it's not going to explode right away. But we have already scorched, we have things like this, and we get our health back instantly. So this is actually going to be awesome in the long run too. we're getting ignitions, and we always have sunspots on the run. So you're kind of always going to have, like, sunspots to heal you, and overall, it's just a really fun build to use. Especially if incandescent, it does help out a little bit, but I would never sacrifice incandescent over 1-2 punch. Especially if you take something like 1-2 punch that gives you a crazy damage output difference. You're sacrificing a lot. So just remember that when you fully build craft. But overall, the things we got going on are bionic enhancements, which is our simple set build. Simple sets is just like a small part of this build that kind of helps out. But you're always going to have instant accuracy with this build. Obviously, the only problem is if you're going to be doing what I'm doing with double specials, you're going to have a lot of ammo issues, especially if you're not running fighters. So just keep that in mind. I personally would not advise anybody to run this build when it comes to double primaries, because 9 out of 10 times you probably will die, especially if you're not up close in people's faces. So like, this is a good example of how this build really sucks. Because like, if you push multiple adds at once, just to start the healing, you are going to die. So don't do this right now, because 9 out of 10 times it's going to miserably fail for you. The best way to, in general, proc this build, I would personally say, is pushing slightly up and getting the sunspot started from like a range. You could run Loreley Splendor if you really wanted to. Loreley Splendor definitely could help, but you're sacrificing the bionic enhancements, which is also a big part of this build for faster PPKs. And overall, I personally would not suggest it, but I mean, you can. Is it possible to perform a build like this? Yes. Do I think you should? No. Another important thing is to, like, look at all the sunspots you're getting. You don't want to sacrifice your sunspots for a little bit more melee damage, or, well, a little bit more healing, because these sunspots in the long run are going to help you, especially if you're running something like practice any kind of debuff damage. Yeah, overall, this is a really, really fun build to use when it comes to PvE.
You're welcome.
You're going to have Roaring Flames proc, which is going to give you a increase in your melee damage, and when you kill an ad using Roaring Flames, it's going to summon a Sunspot, which then is going to be healing. It's going to give you a boost to all your abilities, especially when we have Grenade Kickstart. When we proc our Sunspot, we're going to get triple the grenade energy, which is going to allow you to get a lot more grenades more efficiently than normal with this build. As another example too, when we come down the little bunker area, we can also slide down here. I want to make one thing clear with this build. The only downside is if you're not running things like the exotic that's usually ran for just like, I want to make it clear though, like, don't get the wrong impression, but the exotic that's usually ran to make your solar grenades explode on like impact is good for this build as well, but I would still suggest Synthosets. Why? Because, I mean, guys, would you want a little bit of a faster grenade kill or health regeneration over that? I personally would say health regeneration because, I mean, in high-level content, this build, like, I mean, if I could hit my hammers, this build, like, barely makes the cut line when it comes to survivability and, like, things like GMs. It's very good for solo content because you're always going to have those sunspots, and sunspots are very, very fun to use. Is it better than Banner of War Titan? Guys, what is really better than Banner of War Titan? But there's going to be a time where it actually gets nerfed, and this thing becomes a lot better than your average Titan build. Would I use it? Yeah, I would definitely use it. Would you use it over Banner of War? Depending on the activity. If you're trying to solo flawless content, guys, use this build over Banner of War Titan. Yes, it's still great. Both options are overall solid. However, this build is just so awesome for survivability, and you can still maintain good DPS rotations if you use it correctly, and that's going to be awesome considering you're always going to have infinite grenades, and you should always have a throwing hammer as long as you re-pick it up after killing an ad. So it's not like you're putting yourself at a disadvantage running in this build. You're just sacrificing probably about 20,000 more DPS, which, yes, it's definitely going to be noticeable when it comes to that, but for the sake of always having sunspots, health regeneration, damage increases, more grenades, what's better, really? I mean, the only thing I can personally complain about this build that I want to improve is the fact that my grenade cooldown is just not as efficient as what I ideally wanted. but I'm running 5 intellect as well. Never ever go into any endgame content with anything under 10 resilience, guys. This is just basic knowledge, especially in a game like Destiny. Well, I mean, Destiny's the only game that has resilience. Knock on wood. I'm sure another game will come around with that eventually. And then, you know, Shotgun Cannon as well. It's not mandatory when it comes to this build, but it's going to help you for detail rotations. Bionic enhancements. Mini Syntho Steps. Yes, they did get nuked, but are they still bad? No, they're still awesome. There's no way they're actually ever going to ruin Syntho Steps, guys. It's just one of those exotics that aren't ever going to be bad. But yeah, that's all for today's build, guys. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm looking for ways to improve my build videos in general, so if you guys could leave some friendly suggestions down in the comment section, that would be a lot, and it would help in the long run. Stay safe, Guardians, and have a great rest of your night or day, depending where you're from. Happy New Year's. Guardians, I would like to recommend you an awesome service. Diving.net, you can find teams that complete different activities like raids, trials, exotic farming, and many more. All the services can be done without account sharing. You don't need to give your login or password. To order a service that you like, you need to choose the self-play option. When you select something that you like, choose your platform. In this case, I play on PC, so I'm going to be selecting PC. From here, just select the self-play option, go all the way down and click self-play. After you're satisfied with what you're going to purchase, add to cart, and then click purchase. After finding out what you're going to want to purchase, you're going to want to go to your coupons and type code HECTIC for a 15% off on all products. From here, type your email so they can contact you. Then choose a payment method and check out. I would highly recommend Diving.net as you can do a lot of awesome things and they have great support all the time.